Thank you, listeners, for joining us for today's Elko Live program. Today's guests are the Chief Judges from Elko District Court and Elko Municipal Court. We're going to be talking about some service changes here in Elko County and some plans for the future, among other topics today. Really pleased to welcome in studio our Elko District Court Judge in the 4th Judicial District, Judge Alvin Kacin. Judge, thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Lori. It's good to be here, and thank you for inviting us.
We appreciate the opportunity. Elko Municipal Court Judge Randall Soderquist is our Elko City Municipal Court Judge as well, and again, Chief Judge. And welcome to you, Randall, and congratulations are in order in that you are seeking your seat now unopposed, correct?
I am, yes, and thank you. I was on the ballot unopposed at the primary, and so I made it through.
That's a good feeling of confidence. You were appointed to the position initially, right? And now you've earned the confidence, you would have to say, of the voters because they didn't stand anyone up against you. So
this will be my second election because I did have one other election where I was just filling the remaining 2 years of Judge Simon's term.
So again, double congratulations, and obviously need to have you in studio more often. So thank you. So gentlemen, first of all, we'll talk about, as you're both chief judges, let's talk about the distinction between the local courts, what the district court may be comprised of, Judge Kacin, and then we'll go to you, Judge Soderquist, and talk about how the municipal court is structured.
Well, the 4th Judicial District Court is composed of 3 district judges. We are general jurisdiction judges. We have a criminal caseload. We have a civil caseload. We have a domestic relations caseload. That includes guardianships. There's a probate caseload. We have one courtmaster who assists us. That's Michelle Rodriguez. The other 2 district judges are Judge Mason Simons in the 3rd Department and Judge Kristen Hill in Department Number 1. The courtmaster helps us with our child support caseload as well as our child welfare caseload and juvenile delinquency caseloads. So that's a pretty busy office. We call that the family court. Child welfare cases are cases where the children are in foster care. But we're general jurisdiction caseloads. In terms of what that really means for a criminal caseload is we handle cases at the trial court level anywhere from gross misdemeanor offenses, which are punishable by up to basically a year in the jail and a fine of $2,000, all the way up to capital cases, which are Category A murder cases, for instance. The civil caseload can involve anything from contract disputes, real property disputes, to suits for damages and personal injury cases, any amount in controversy. We also, just to add a little more flesh to those bones, handle administrative appeals, essentially, judicial review of administrative decisions by various administrative law judges working for various agencies in the executive branch. So, there are other types of cases we can handle as well. We've had election disputes and those sorts of things, but by and large, that's what we do. We're general jurisdiction judges.
Very busy. Thank you, Judge Kacin. Judge Soderquist, would you mind telling us about the structure of Elko Municipal Court?
So we have the Elko Municipal Court and the Elko Justice Court. So we have the 2 courts, but they are both limited jurisdiction courts. So unlike the district court, our jurisdiction is determined by statute, and it is spelled out in Chapter 4 for the Justice Court. And there are certain things that we have the jurisdiction to here, but if it doesn't say that we have the jurisdiction, well, then it goes to the general jurisdiction, the district court. But we handle things like misdemeanors and the cases all the way through. When it comes to felonies and gross misdemeanors, we only handle the first part of the case. After someone is arrested, determining bail, holding a preliminary hearing, and then it would go to the district court for the trial. When it comes to civil cases, it's generally matters where there's a contract or a dispute of some kind where the amount in controversy is $15,000 or less. If it's more than that, then again, it goes to district court. We handle citations, and that would be for either misdemeanors or, as of January last year, now there are civil infractions. Certain offenses are no longer criminal, they're civil, and those fall within our jurisdiction.
Oh, go ahead, Judge.
So the Elko Municipal Court specifically handles the violations of Elko City Code. It does have a limited amount of civil jurisdiction, but in general, it's criminal jurisdiction for violations of Elko City Code. The Elko Justice Court has jurisdiction over most of the civil matters that fall within our purview, and also criminal violations of Elko County Code and state statute. So we do have two separate and distinct courts that we operate jointly, the Municipal Court and the Justice Court. And Elko County in general is unique around the state, where we do, in all four municipalities, operate our Justice Court and our Municipal Court jointly. There are a few other places in the state where there's the same person who acts as Municipal Court judge and is elected as the Justice of the Peace. But in those other places around the state, they have separate offices, separate staff, different windows that you go to pay a ticket if it's Municipal Court versus Justice Court. In Carlin, Elko, Wells, and West Wendover, for quite some time now, we've operated all of them jointly, and there are cost-sharing agreements between the county and the various municipalities.
I know the city of Elko appreciates the relationship very much. In your being our municipal court judge, it is a big cost saving rather than having a standalone facility. So
it's not only a cost savings, but it's a benefit to the public. In general, folks that get a ticket don't really know or care, understandably, whether it's in municipal court or justice court. They just know that they need to go to the one window, and there's one phone number to call and one website. And we handle everything on the backside about making sure municipal court stuff stays in municipal court and justice court in justice court.
Well, thank you, Judge. Judge Randall Soderquist is our Elko Justice Court Municipal Court Judge, and sitting alongside our Elko District Court Judge in the 4th Judicial District, that is Judge Al Kacin. So the first issue or topic that we're going to get to today, and there's so many things we can talk about, so hopefully, gentlemen, you'll be able to come back as our chief judges, but there have been some court-related services changes at Elko County. It was discussed briefly, I believe, at a recent county commission meeting. I think there's some signs on the doors at some of the buildings in the annex there in the courthouse. So should we start with the changes? Who would like to take that on first?
Well, I guess I can give my perspective, and I'm sure we both have unique perspectives. But what we've done is we've consolidated our courts. We are still two separate and distinct courts. However, we have a joint resolution for administrative consolidation. I believe we entered into that finally in May, if I'm not mistaken. And what we're trying to do is provide one-stop shopping services for the public, become more efficient, pool our resources, and that includes having a new court administrator to run our operation. We're trying to build our administration, have a court administrator with one mission to serve the courts. That sea change for the district judges really involved moving away from the county clerk's office. The county clerk was the ex officio clerk for the district court judges. And a bulk of the county clerk's work was providing services to the judges, taking filings, managing the caseload, handling other aspects of court services for the district courts, including managing the funds that were coming in to the district courts. There are other functions, reporting to the administrative office of the courts, all of our statistics. It goes on and on. There's a lot to it. as you know, the county clerk has other responsibilities. It's a very busy office. And so it was the district judge's view that we needed to create the office of court administrator so that we had one person with one mission, and that's to serve the courts. I think it's extremely difficult, was extremely difficult now that Elko County's gotten so big and our operations gotten so big, for the clerk to provide court services and do all the other things the clerk needed to do, including manage elections. And there's always more and more when it comes to elections. That's a big deal. And we understand that. So from our view anyway, as district court judges, we felt that the timing was right to approach the justices of the peace, the other justice of the peace, Judge Drake, and Judge Soderquist met with us. We decided to follow a model that's actually been tried and true over in Carson City. We were really fortunate to have Judge Soderquist with all his administrative knowledge and experience, because he was the court administrator for a long time for Elko Justice and Municipal Court, and if I'm not mistaken, Eastline Township Justice Court, and then the Municipal Court for West Wendover. We got together, decided that was appropriate, did some field trips to Carson City to learn about that, as well as Minden down in Douglas County, and we decided to consolidate, and there's a lot of change here going on, and we're working on our administration, doing a better job reporting our activities to the administrative office of the courts, managing our caseloads through our court administrator, who is Lydia Rosales is our court administrator. She is the first one in the history of Elko County. She's worked since 2004 in both justice and municipal courts in Elko County, as well as district courts. And we're in the process now of working through all these changes, and a lot of it's involved moving away from the clerk's office, setting up our own operations, and working on our case management and filings. So that's from my perspective, the district judge's perspective, I think, where we've gone with all this.
All right, Judge, thanks. And I'll have, obviously, Judge Soderquist weigh in on this, and then we'll talk some more about those changes.
So my counterpart in the Justice Court is Judge Brian Drake. So I preside in Department A, he presides in Department B, and we share caseloads. We can fill in for each other as needed. We have a specific formula that we use to assign cases to Department A or Department B, but in general, we can fill in for each other in almost any circumstance. And it just provides some flexibility. I think it provides some better service for the public. We also have a joint administration under us, and have had for probably about 30 years, where the court administrator in the Justice and Municipal Court was the one employee of the judges. And under the court administrator, all of the staff were assigned. Now we have that same structure, just at a higher level, where you have 5 elected judges and reporting to us one person. And the court administrator who reports to us is the person who appoints all of the employees for the court and directs the work of all of the employees.
Wow, that sounds like an enormous task. I mean, seriously, when you think about the scope of the work. So congratulations to Lydia, and obviously a lot of confidence in her in that position. So what has changed for the community or the public is where they physically go for these filings, would you say? Who would like to talk about that?
So the Justice Court and the Municipal Court have shared the basement of the county courthouse. I think ever since the Nanini Administration Building was built, that's when the last offices moved out, and it's just been the Justice and Municipal Court. The clerk's office is in the annex, and they're on the top floor. and they were out of space with all of the district court functions that they fulfilled and all the files that they had. We don't have a lot of space in the basement, but we do have the whole basement. And we've managed to get all of the filings to come to the one window that we have down in the basement of the courthouse. So if someone does come in and they have a filing, they just need to know that they need to file it with the court. It was not uncommon before for someone to come through, go all the way through security, walk downstairs, go to the window, and it turned out they actually needed to file in district court, which is in a different building. And they'd have to go out again. And they don't have to do that anymore. They just come to one window to file.
Down in the basement. We'll talk more about that too. We want to talk about the physical locations, the prospect of a justice center. So that will be part of our conversation today. As we're visiting with our Elko judges, we have Judge Randall Soderquist here, along with Judge Kacin, and talking again about the changes. So it doesn't sound as though much, the clerk's office will serve and manage the elections, the bonds, as we talked about, dog licenses, marriage licenses, any number of clerical support for meetings that county commissioners have, and all these other court filings, such as jury paneling, court clerk services. Those have been consolidated, as you said, and moved to the basement. And that's all under Lydia's direction as well. So Lydia Rosales is the court administrator, as you named. Okay,
correct.
Good. Want to make sure I got all that straight. There was a lot to cover there. And so maybe we can start with you, Judge Soderquist, because you are there in the basement to begin with. How does everything fit down there? Because we've been hearing in the community that, there are concerns about that environment in the basement. There's a lot of congestion in there and maybe some circulation issues in the past. Would you be able to talk about the physical location of the basement?
Well, when the courthouse was built back in 1910, 1911, the top two floors were intended for occupancy, and the basement was not. The basement was intended for storage. And as Elko County grew, it was gradually built out as office space because, that's what was available. So as far as the offices that are in the basement, they weren't built to be offices, and that presents some challenges. The county commission has been great. They have been making efforts to get a fresh air ventilation system into the basement and try and mitigate some other issues that we have with water leakage, things like that. But to be honest, it's a 113-year-old building. Right. You're going to have some problems when you have a building that's that old, and the county has done a great job at working with us to keep that as a workable space. We definitely have gotten our money out of that county courthouse over the last century, and it's time, I think, that we look at building another one where we can move the justice functions over into a modern purpose-built facility.
All right, good segue to Judge Kacin. You are in a separate building now, but it is repurposed.
Yeah. How long have we been in there now? It's going on a couple of years. We've been over in the, we call it the old bank building, the corner of 6th and Idaho, on the other side of the street there, Boucher. That has always been intended, at least by the judges, as a stopgap, something that we can use to handle large jury panels, other large groups of people as needed. It's a larger facility. It was remodeled after the county purchased it from Washington Federal. And our facilities are a lot better over there, I think, certainly than in the old courthouse. When I say that, I'm talking about we have very modern, we have the most modern Wi-Fi capabilities. audio-visual capabilities. It makes it a lot easier for attorneys to present cases, litigate jury trials. It's a lot more comfortable for the jurors, the court employees, and others who might come to watch jury trials, for instance. There are fairly sufficient bathroom facilities there, which really was a problem and still remains a problem in the old courthouse. We really don't have a lot of facilities there. We also have a meeting room for attorneys and clients and witnesses in the new facility. The jury deliberation room is in the old vault. We don't have a lot of office space, but we're making it work. Nice building. It's kind of funny. I think Lydia worked there when she was very young in the bank. And she ended up becoming my judicial assistant before she came to the role of court administrator, and we all appointed her. And by the way, we did that unanimously. We always look for unanimity as judges when we make these decisions, but she kind of came full circle. She came back, and that's where her desk was when she was working for me, right there at the drive-thru. The building is more secure than the old building, but there are still a lot of issues with that. So, yeah, that's where I've been. I'm the Department 2 judge, but other judges come in there and use that facility. We really try to work together, including with our brethren in the justice and municipal courts. There are jury trials now in justice courts and domestic battery cases, and that's been the law now for a few years. Sometimes they need to use that facility. So we shift courtrooms as needed. But I do agree, this maybe goes beyond your question, but I do agree with Judge Soderquist that it's time to build a new facility, a modern facility that will serve the people of Elko County for many, many, many decades to come. And that's the type of facility we're looking at, I think.
Well, thank you, Judge. Judge Kacin and Judge Soderquist are our guests today, and it does bring us to that topic about a justice center, and you are correct. The plans are in the works. I think they've come back, though, hoping to better use the available funds. I think the initial estimates were over $70 million for all the plans they were looking at, and now they'd like to scale that back to closer to $45 million or something available. So maybe even it's just 42.
That keeps changing.
Does it too?
And I'm not disparaging anybody by saying that, but
no,
we're
it's
always
public record.
Sure, we're trying to work out how much will be spent on this. Yeah, looking for ways to be cost conscious. I know.
Right,
yeah.
And again, it's county commissioners who make the decision on behalf of the taxpayers and the citizens, but the people who are using these facilities. And plus, it is concerning, and I don't think it's unfair to say that the community, there is concern in the community of people. We are putting professionals and we're subjecting the public, to the basement in the justice court. I mean, the old county courthouse, and that's certainly not ideal. So this is a timely discussion. Things need to happen pretty quickly, don't they, judges? Would you say?
I mean, it's certainly not ideal in the basement, but it's been necessary. If we can go forward with the plan as it currently stands, which has been trimmed down to a much smaller number, if we can do that, the plan would be to vacate the basement of the courthouse, and for the first time since the 40s, it could go back to storage as it was built for. But there's never a shortage of needs, and there's always a shortage of funds. So that's the question, is are there the funds available to be able to do something like that now?
All right.
And what sort of financing do you look at? Are you going to finance? These are all things,
right.
Sure, that they, and what does that look like? And I think the commission is looking at that. We appreciate that. This has been a long time coming in terms of, hiring an architect to do a needs assessment. That was done by a very impressive group of architects, one of whom specializes in judicial facilities and designing, building, working with contractors on these judicial facilities. So, we're looking at that. I wanted to add, when we did move into the old bank building, that was a remodel, but one thing we didn't do was build it out like a court. And that was at my insistence because, again, we always looked at this as a stopgap. So we have very modular courtroom there. And what I mean by that is we have furniture that can move around very easily, seating, desktops, even the bench is movable, it's mobile. And so that was done with the understanding that, look, this may not be a court in a few years, and we could use it for some other purpose. And in the plans, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, please, I believe the public defender's office would be slated to come into that building. And that could be very easily done. And you could get cubicle type setup where the old tellers were and the old bank floor was, if you remember what that was like. So, and it's a secure, as I said, it's got security aspects to it that I think a modern public defender's office really should have as well. So I did want to make that point too.
Well, thank you, Judge.
And yes, the current plans and almost all of the departments in the county, if not all, need more space. Elko County is growing. The demands on government services are growing, and it's always a question of where can we put people and how can we best allocate the space that we have. The plan, as it currently stands, would be to build a judicial center that had enough courtrooms for the existing judges. The prior plan had room for growth. This one does also have room for growth, but not built into it. It would be built with the ability to add on later. But it would be built with 6 courtrooms for the 6 judicial officers, the 3 district court judges, the 2 justice and municipal court judges, and the family court master. And then that would free up space elsewhere in the county complex to move people around. And one of those planned moves would be for the public defender's office to move into the bank building where Department 2 is now.
And that was discussed, that was part of the needs assessment. And this has been a really, I think, methodical, planned process, which to my knowledge is the first time that's happened in Elko County. So we actually have a blueprint for how we might be able to do all this. And I do think we need a facility that will serve the public for many, many decades, not just the next 2, beyond just the next 20 years. And we could build a facility that maybe is not completely built out, like the judge was saying. That's actually been done in Nevada elsewhere. I believe in the 3rd Judicial District Court in Lyon County over in Yerington. That was done, and they're in the process of now, I believe, building out space that they had left open for future expansion. So really, we're looking at future growth too, Lori.
Well, thank you, Judge. And it is not, as you said, uncommon, even here in Elko County with the jail. They're looking at building out on that final phase of the footprint and for a behavioral health unit just for the inmates. So I know we've had a couple of really important topics today, and I did want to ask one more question as we're sort of exiting today's program, but certainly hope you'll come back. I think this has been a really great opportunity for the community to hear.
I would be happy to.
Thank you, Judge, very much. That would be wonderful.
As would I.
Thank you. They are both our chief judges. So we have monthly conversations with local law enforcement. And by the way, we could certainly fold the courts into that in any form that you would see that would be beneficial. But law enforcement, our police chief and our sheriff, they often talk about the revolving door of criminals. And obviously it's not your place to comment specifically on any cases that you are seeing right now, but we wanted to give you the opportunity because sometimes the public is critical and saying, well, the judges let them out again, or the judges aren't sending them to prison or to jail. Did you want to comment? And not that law enforcement are saying that. They're saying that there are laws. The laws have changed. And so they are seeing repeat offenders. Is that something you could comment on, Judge?
Well, yeah, in general, sure. We can always talk about criminal justice issues like that. We can't talk about specific cases, and I just want to let your listeners know that because that would be unethical. Those are called ex parte communications for judges, and we have ethics codes that prevent us from doing that sort of thing. But we can talk about, in general, overarching criminal justice issues or issues pertaining to the courts. In fact, we're encouraged to do that by our ethics codes. And so I would comment that we are working on getting a mental health court together. Resources, I wholeheartedly agree with Judge Soderquist, it can be tough to marshal resources, including human resources, just not financial. It's not just financial resources, but marshaling human resources. And we're talking about case manager for such a court, and obviously treatment providers. But we are still working on that, and we think we're getting near to that. I've been told that those in law enforcement would like to see that, and an assist from the courts on that. We are seeing more and more sometimes intractable mental health problems, people coming before us as defendants. There are certain laws we have to apply to deal with that cohort. The laws have changed. There are some mandatory probations. There are sometimes even mandatory deferred judgments. So a lot of times the judges are just applying the laws enacted by our legislature, and maybe we're sending some people over there on probation that maybe we're not comfortable with that, but the law is the law, and of course we take an oath to follow the law. So that's kind of where we're at with a lot of that. I always like to say, there's an assessment that's made. Can this person be supervised in the community on probation safely? And I think every judge does that, and you make that assessment and you go ahead and sometimes place people on probation. Sometimes people are not deserving of that privilege because as a judge you feel like, I just cannot see that this person could be safely supervised in the community. There's more that goes into sentencing, but it sounds to me like you wanted to talk about that. So
thank you.
I hope I addressed that question.
I think you did, and obviously we can continue that topic when you come back on the program. And Judge Soderquist, did you want to comment on either that issue or?
Well, specifically the mental health court. Judge Kacin has taken great strides to get some planning done, to build a foundation, a framework that we can take and implement. And at this point, myself and Judge Simons are looking at running that court jointly. And it's another example of the collaboration between the Justice Court and the District Court. We have a lot of individuals who have mental health issues, but have cases in both District Court and Justice Court and Municipal Court. With the consolidation that we've had for decades between Justice and Municipal Court, we can handle those seamlessly with the same judge. There's potential for having more collaboration and more seamless integration of resources and tracking of defendants with the same judge with this.
It's a higher level of supervision that you would get in other specialty courts, such as adult drug court, family preservation court, juvenile drug court. That's what we're trying to achieve. Because I agree with what you said, law enforcement says, because I speak to peace officers as well about, what's going on out there. And, it's a revolving door. You can send people to prison, but, we are seeing them again. The idea is to intervene in the community, to build bridges between this marginalized person usually and the community so that the person can remain in the community and stop offending. So it's a tricky business, though. I'm not going to leave your listeners with any delusions. It can be hard to do that, no matter how you slice it at a sentencing.
Unfortunately, we are out of time for today, but we could continue this conversation. It sounds like we will.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I can't believe how fast this all goes.
Thank you, listeners, for joining us today.